The last guard left a rulebook for the things that hunt me in this mall. I haven't slept since my shift ended. Every time I close my eyes, I see its face, a kaleidoscope of agony and glee plastered onto something that was never human. Alistair, the man who hired me, mentioned something tucked under the security office desk. He called it a little light reading. It was a thick, spiral-bound ledger, the kind you'd see in an old accounting office. Its cardboard cover was soft with age and stained with something dark. Tucked inside was a floor plan of the Galleria, covered in spidery handwriting. I thought Alistair was screwing with me, a hazing ritual for the new guy. Then I started reading the ledger. It wasn't one person's handwriting, but at least 5 or 6, each entry more frantic than the last. They called it the night log. The first few pages were standard security notes. A busted pipe on the 3rd floor. A shoplifter report from 2008. Then the entries got weird. One section, dated 3 years ago, described the rattle in the food court. The handwriting was a jagged scrawl. It said to stop the noise, you had to make a peanut butter and honey sandwich on whole wheat bread, cut it into triangles, and leave it on a ceramic plate in the walk-in fridge of the old burger joint. I remembered Alistair walking out of there during my orientation, a smear of something sticky on his sleeve. He said he was checking the breakers. Another entry warned about the air ducts. They live in the vents, it said. Don't let the air go still. Run the heat on high for 10 minutes every hour. They hate the heat. It was a survival guide, written in blood and terror. I still wanted to believe it was a prank. Right up until I saw him on the monitor. It was camera 14B, pointed at the abandoned anchor store on the West End. A figure sat at one of the empty cosmetics counters. It was shaped like a man, but the proportions were all wrong. The way it sat, hunched, and still made the primitive part of my brain start screaming. It was a predator trying to look like scenery. My meds usually blunt the edges of my anxiety, but they did nothing for the cold dread coiling in my gut. I had to go look. I had to know. Leaving the relative safety of the office felt like stepping off a cliff. The main atrium was a cavern of silence, and my footsteps were gunshots in the dark. But it wasn't my own steps that bothered me. It was the echo. A soft, wet shuffle that came a half second after my own boot hit the tile. It was always right behind me. When I got to the department store, the figure from the camera was gone. The air was cold and smelled of dust and old perfume. I moved through the aisles, my light cutting through the gloom. I checked behind racks of faded clothing, under counters, even in the circular displays of moth-eaten suits. Nothing. I was alone. As I stepped back out into the main concourse, I heard it again. A single heavy footstep. But this time, it came from directly above me. I was standing on thick, sound-dampening carpet. There should have been no echo. A cold rash pebbled across my skin. My breath hitched. Every survival instinct I possessed screamed at me not to look up. But I couldn't help it. I tilted my head back, slowly, my neck creaking. It was leaning over the 2nd floor railing, stretched out so far its spine should have snapped. Its limbs were impossibly long and thin, the skin puckered and gray like a drowned man's. And its face. God, its face. It was every extreme emotion at once. Ecstatic joy pulled one side of its mouth into a grin, while furious rage furrowed its brow. Abject terror widened one eye, while the other wept a thick black tear. The contradictions twisted its features into something utterly foul. I tried to scream, but my throat closed up. All that came out was a dry, pathetic little click. We just stared at each other across the 20-foot drop, the thing on the railing and me. Alistair's words slithered into my mind. Some things you want to see, some you don't. I had no idea which category this fell into, but my gut gave me one unbreakable rule. Don't look away. As long as I held its gaze, it was perfectly still. Its eyes, mismatched and full of a predatory, playful hunger, followed my every twitch. I started backing away, never breaking eye contact. I moved out from under the overhang, my heart a frantic bird beating against the cage of my ribs. Its head rotated a full 180 degrees to keep me in its sights. It didn't move its body, just that horrible swiveling head. It was between me and the main stairs back to the office. I had to take the long way around. I kept backing up, my eyes burning from the strain of not blinking, until I reached the service stairs at the far end of the concourse. I started climbing, backwards, one step at a time, my hand gripping the cold metal rail. As I ascended, I saw more of its body. It was 9, maybe 10 feet tall, a stack of mismatched parts. One leg was thicker than the other, one arm was twice as long. It was a collage of human anatomy, assembled by a madman. The moment the angle of the stairwell forced me to break eye contact, all hell broke loose. A sound tore through the silence. It wasn't a scream. It was the shriek of a train's wheels grinding on the tracks, fused with the chittering of 1,000 insects. It was a sound that vibrated in my teeth. I didn't have to look back to know it was moving. I sprinted up the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. The thing's footsteps echoed my own, but they were heavier, harder, cracking the tiles as it ran. I risked a glance over my shoulder as I hit the 3rd floor landing. It was there, halfway down the hall, frozen in mid-stride, the second my eyes landed on it. The playful hunger was gone from its face, replaced with a singular, burning hatred. Then it wailed, a sound of pure loss and fury, and the chase was on again. I ran, my lungs on fire, the sound of it right behind me, a cacophony of screeching metal and splintering bone. I reached the hallway to the office and threw myself down the last flight of stairs, fumbling with the keys. I slammed the heavy steel door shut just as its weight hit the other side with a deafening boom. And then, silence. Total, absolute silence. As if it had never been there at all. I slid down the door, a mess of sweat and tears, gasping for air. "What the hell was that?" I sobbed to the empty room. I crawled over to the desk, using the chair to pull myself up, my legs shaking too much to stand. I frantically cycled through the cameras, searching the halls for any sign of it. The thing that chased me was gone. But I wasn't alone. On camera 32C, the one aimed at the old toy store on the top floor, there was another figure. This one was small, maybe the size of a child. It moved with a twitching, mechanical gait, like a broken automaton. Its face was a nightmare. 2 tiny black beads for eyes were set high on its head. The rest of its face was dominated by an enormous, gaping mouth, its jaw unhinged and swinging low. It was mumbling something. The cameras have no audio, but I could see the thick, pale lips flapping, forming silent, frantic words. As I watched, it pressed its face against the wall, and its jaw stretched impossibly wide, scooping out a chunk of drywall and chewing it with a slow, grinding motion. I collapsed onto the worn-out sofa, my mind just a cloud of static. This isn't real. It can't be. Why would Alistair leave me here alone? Looking back at the elevator, at his dead eyes, I should have just walked away. I needed this job, but nobody needs a job this badly. My phone alarm buzzed. 4 a.m. End of shift. I scrambled back to the monitors and pulled up the feed for the main employee entrance. Alistair was supposed to meet me. Then I flipped to the lobby camera. The small, chattering creature was there. As I watched in horror, it contorted its body and squeezed into a narrow service panel in the wall, pulling the cover shut behind it. I checked the cameras along the quickest route to the exit. All clear. I didn't walk. I ran. I nearly collided with Alistair on the stairs. He was walking up, calm as ever. The sight of his placid, indifferent face sent a surge of hot rage through my fear. "Alistair," I yelled, my voice cracking. "What the absolute hell is going on in this place? Keep your voice down," he said. It wasn't a command, just a flat statement. He looked past me, at the ledger clutched in my hand. "I see you found the log. Did you have an eventful evening?" "Eventful. A 10-foot-tall thing made of nightmares chased me through the halls. Why didn't you warn me?" "I did," he said, tapping the side of his head. "I told you to pay attention. The elevator was your warning." He sighed, a dry, dusty sound. He met my eyes, and for a second, I felt like he could see every terrified thought in my head. "You should hold on to that book. It's the only reason any of us last more than a week." He pulled a small notepad from his pocket. "Well, you're not dead or dismembered, so I'll count that as a success. You're officially hired. Monday to Friday, 11 to 4. $30 an hour to start. No overtime. And Casimir," he said, pausing his writing, "try not to break anything. It's a real bastard trying to fix the wiring with all the things nesting in the crawl spaces. And please, don't die." The paperwork is a nightmare. The sheer, baffling mundanity of his words knocked the anger right out of me. All I could do was stare. "Okay," I mumbled, and I walked past him and out into the gray, pre-dawn light. It wasn't until I was in my car, the engine running and the doors locked, that the reality of it settled in. I couldn't quit. I couldn't walk away. 45 hours a week at that rate would solve all my problems. It was too much money to turn down. It was life-changing money. I looked at the stained ledger sitting on my passenger seat. If that book was the only thing standing between me and whatever else lurked in the silent halls of the Blackwood Galleria, then I was going to read it until I had every single twisted rule memorized. I was going to treat it like my goddamn Bible.